All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of Roundabout Sports, presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media, where our passion is our profession. Thank you for tuning in this Wednesday evening, folks. I am the maestro, Jeremy Carp. It is February 1st. It is Black History Month. It is a new month, folks. We got through January of 2023. So thank you all for tuning in wherever you are, however you're listening, whether on Spotify, Google, Apple, Breaker, Anchor, any of those places. Thank you so much. And alongside myself is the hardest working official in the business, Mr. Hollywood himself, James Knox.
Yo, 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 what's up?
Well, happy February, Jared, to you as well, my friend. Thank you. And I'm doing all right, James. How are you, bud?
I'm doing well. February 1st, the month that football comes back to St. Louis.
Cacaw is the law. Well, not necessarily to St. Louis. It's going to be a few games, but the XFL, the Battlehawk season kicks off.
It's a cool month because you get the launch of the XFL, pitchers and catchers report. The World Baseball Classic is a month away. This is where really things heat up in college basketball down the stretch, and the Blues continue to suck. So right on.
I was going to say, I believe Saturday, February 18th, is the first game of the season in the XFL. It'll be Vegas at Arlington and then Orlando at Houston. But Sunday, February 19th,
Sunday.
Exactly. Our lovely St. Louis Battlehawks will be taking on San Antonio. And then Seattle will be taking on DC later that night. And good evening, Christopher Miles. And of course, congratulations to Christopher Miles. He hosts the Issues with Wrestling with Christopher Miles here on Interstate 70 Sports Media. And it was just announced that his podcast is among the top 100 wrestling podcasts on Apple. So congratulations to that. And you're only 2 episodes in, and that's what I think is wonderful about it.
It's because he's a heel. Everybody's afraid of him. And how does a heel get tickets for the home opener? Was The Rock afraid you were going to pin him?
Oh my God.
The St. Louis screw job?
We're almost at Groundhog Day. We'll find out if we get 6 more weeks of winter soon. And
if that little bastard sees his shadow tomorrow, somebody's getting the people's elbow.
Well, I know how to make you feel better. I mean, all we have to do if the groundhog starts to peek out is all we gotta do is send this after him.
Sending him. Yep, sending him after him.
Sending the damn cat. And it's oh God, it is a secret, and he probably stole the tickets from you, James.
I'll actually be in town. I'll actually be in town for the home opener.
Well, it's about damn time you show up in town.
I have a meeting up there. That's what brings me in. It's business. Of course,
you're going to be busy. Well, folks, speaking of busy, it has been an absolutely busy day here in the sports world, and we have so much to talk about. We were going to kick it off with talking about the fallout from the AFC and NFC championship games, as Super Bowl 56 is 2 weeks away. And we will get into more talk of Super Bowl 56 next week. But we were still going to recap the championship games. But then this morning, we got hit with James, would you consider it a curveball, a heater, a spitball? I mean, what would you consider this news?
I was surprised, if that's what you're asking. Yeah, I'd prepare for the Express and get the local. I mean, when you get news of Tom Brady retiring, funny enough, to the exact day that it was last year that he announced his retirement, after everything he had gone through this year, I mean, we don't know, obviously, his family dynamics, but when you get to a point where you feel like he gave up his family and everything to continue playing, and then today he announces retirement. I guess that 10-year, $370 million dollar contract from Fox must be calling.
Well, and I was going to say, it's a big contract out there from Fox to begin the next season, and our condolences go out to Greg Olson on his broadcasting career because they just screwed him over.
He's done a great job too. I really enjoyed listening to him. I would say that, I like Tony Romo, but I would say that Greg Olson has been much better than Tony Romo. I would obviously, Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olson will call the Super Bowl, but I wouldn't be surprised if Tom Brady's not on that Super Bowl coverage for Fox, because one, it would bring more eyes in. That's for sure. I've enjoyed Gronk on Fox too, for that fact.
Gronk is. I'm indifferent on Gronk. I mean, freaking love him as a player, but I'm indifferent on him. But you know why he's on there is because of his personality and the
Right.
fact he's a representative for the current players. That's
Well,
it. But
you
I
know,
just
I
feel like there's too many hosts on there as it is, and I enjoy Fox a lot better than I enjoy CBS when it comes to
I'm
their
with
pregame
you.
coverage.
I'm with you, and I agree that there are too many chefs in the kitchen. But I do like the fact that Gronk is on there because he gives that player's perspective. And I there were times where he was asked questions, because I was watching the coverage leading up to the NFC Championship game, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh, how's he going to answer this?" But for being somebody that we all know as like Gronk smash and just being a big dumb animal, he's actually well spoken as a football analyst. He can break it down from an X's and O's point of view.
Well, speaking of somebody that can break it down but can't anymore because, Jack's history just brought it up. Sean Payton has been named the new coach of the Denver Broncos after the Nathaniel Hackett experiment was a complete and utter botch up.
Yeah,
And
no doubt.
honestly, Stevie Wonder could have seen that one coming. We take a look at how Sean Payton, who turned a Saints franchise around that had been struggling for basically the beginning of their history. And you put Sean Payton and Drew Brees together, and they absolutely took over the football world. It's a shame they only had one Super Bowl, but holy crap, were they electric. And Sean Payton, he didn't go to the Broncos. It wasn't just a signing because he was still technically under a contract. He was traded to the Broncos for the Broncos 2023 first round pick and the 2024 second round pick for Sean Payton and the Saints 2024 third round selection. And they're going to make him one of the highest paid coaches in the league, expectedly so. I mean, this is a massive hire. Given the division they're in, given how much they invested in both Russell Wilson, you need a proven coach. Nathaniel Hackett was not that guy.
Right.
And so I think this is a great hire for the Broncos, but I also think it's a great return for the Saints. The Saints have really been struggling lately. You got some good pieces on the team, but you also don't know what's going to happen next year with a lot of guys with cap hits. So this is a good chance for New Orleans.
Yeah, and Russell Wilson was actually in with Broncos management, to bring Sean Payton in as their head coach. Payton has worked with a small quarterback before, with Drew Brees, and the Broncos, when healthy, have weapons. You've got Jerry Jeudy and Tim Patrick, as receivers on the outside. Yeah,
Alvin
right. Jamal Williams as their running back. I mean, they have weapons.
Javonte.
And yeah, Javon, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Wrong Williams. A lot of Williamses. But
So
no,
many Williamses.
I don't, Jack's history asks how they'll build a team without draft picks. I mean, look, there's not a whole lot of holes there to fill, at least offensively. Defensively, they were an okay team. I think that they do it through free agency and probably some more trades. I mean, yes, the Rams are paying a penance for not having any draft picks now, but they did it that way. They went through free agency.
True. Yeah, and this is true. Broncos wanted DeMeco Ryans, and DeMeco Ryans became the head coach of the Houston Texans, which our condolences go out to him.
Well, I mean,
I don't want Ryans to be one and done. I don't want him to get the Lovie Smith treatment.
He won't be. I mean, and you got to understand too. He has a rapport with the team. He played there. He was J.J. Watt's teammate there in Houston. There was, if given a chance of being a defensive coordinator in Denver or being, the head coach in Houston, yeah, he's going to go back to where he has fond memories of being. I mean, look, he's going to be beloved by the crowd there. He's going to be beloved by the fans. The organization has a soft spot for him. He's not going to be one and done. Matter of fact, if you're looking at the Texans and they're, whether it's pick one, or pick two, their first round pick is going to be a quarterback. And so you're either going to get Bryce Young or you're going to get CJ Stroud. And, so you already have your centerpiece to build around. That Houston Texans team, we forget it's not the fact that they don't have weapons or have good players. It's the fact that their coaching was terrible. That organization didn't do a very good job of bringing in who they wanted to bring in. And I know Lovie Smith, a big-time defensive coach, but you need somebody who can think on both sides of the ball. And it doesn't matter if it was Lovie in Chicago, Lovie in Houston, Lovie at the University of Illinois. His defenses were great. His offenses left more than a little bit to be desired.
Yeah, and I mean, but this is my thing, and this is where I do disagree with Jack's history. He signed a 6-year deal with the Texans, so he won't be one and done. That means nothing.
Nope, he can be bought out.
He can be bought out. Nathaniel Hackett's proof. Matt Ruley is proof. I mean, these guys can get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting on the couches at home because their contracts were bought out, or they'd be deferring payments for X amount of time.
Yeah.
That said, I don't think DeMeco Ryans will be one and done, only because the Texans organization cannot literally afford to have 2 straight years of one and done coaches. And I'm gonna say it, this people are gonna think this isn't a point, but it is. You can't have 2 black coaches one and done.
Yep.
You can't. And
not that the NFL abides by the Rooney Rule anyway. But
you know what? I also think the Rooney Rule. I'm very mixed on the Rooney Rule. I think it's a shame that you have to have it.
I know,
because it just shows the arrogance of.
Oh, you mean a bunch of old? You mean a bunch of old white millionaires? Yeah, I mean, like we didn't see that one coming.
Well, I don't like that the rule has to exist, but it's also a shame because there's so many very talented black coaches, women coaches out there that don't get the same opportunities. And,
I agree.
But to kind of just backtrack on this whole thing, and I think that I do feel that is another reason the Texans won't be one and done with DeMeco Ryans. The 6-year deal, I know they're in them for the long haul. They're going to do what they can. They do got good pieces on that team, but overall, it was one Hail Mary short of having the number 1 pick in the draft. And so to go back a bit, we woke up this morning and saw the Instagram video. It wasn't an elaborate speech. It wasn't a 20-minute press conference. It was short, sweet, and to the point. Tom Brady has announced his retirement after 23 seasons. Will he stay retired? Hell if I know. James and I both grew up during the Brett Favre era. So, who is still a piece of crap, by the way. Just figured I'd...
Still stealing money from the people of Mississippi.
Absolutely. Still doing that. Terrible person for that. Nevertheless, Tom Brady's retired after 23 seasons in the NFL. And I'm telling you right now, James, he's first eligible in 2028 for the Hall of Fame. There's no doubt he's going to be in. Because listen, he's a 5-time MVP in the Super Bowl, a 7-time Super Bowl champ, a 3-time NFL MVP, 6-time All-Pro, 15-time Pro Bowler. And he probably never attended one of them because he was always in a championship game or a Super Bowl.
Right.
Most passing touchdowns ever at 649. Just under 90,000 passing yards. He was at 89,214. And the most wins by a starting quarterback in NFL history with 251. And he said he was going to play till he was 45. And that's exactly what he did. Now, this is also, granted, Aaron Rodgers is still playing, but for the most part, this is the end of an era. And with that, I bring up the question. This is the end of an era of multiple ways. One, the Mannings, Rivers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger. That era's gone.
Yep.
Aaron Rodgers will probably be the next to go. Christopher Miles loves Brady. I think he spelled love wrong, but that's okay. No. But my question to you, James, and folks, for everyone tuning in, be sure to comment and tell me what you think on this question. How will, as I put on the bottom, how will Tom Brady's legacy be remembered? Will it be remembered for all the stats I just put up, all the accolades I just mentioned, or will it be remembered for Spygate, for Deflategate, for Giselle go with Antonio Brown Gate? I mean, what do you think, James?
I think as much as I would love to, just bang on Tom Brady, I'm not a fan of him either. It has to be recognized for all of the accolades, and not Deflategate and not Spygate. You know, I think that Tom Brady has to be remembered for, the 28-3 comeback against the Falcons. I know that was aided by Matt Ryan and the Falcons, but to bring a team, right, to bring a team back from 28-3 and win, in overtime. I think it has to be known for, as much as I hate this, his first Super Bowl win over the Rams in 2001.
Yeah.
Taking over for Drew Bledsoe, and it just has to be. I mean, and then going to Tampa Bay in his first year there and winning the Super Bowl. I mean, a lot of we can sit and talk about how much you hate Tom Brady, but look, Tom Brady is the New York Yankees. Tom Brady is the St. Louis Cardinals. He's the Chicago Blackhawks. He's the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's the Los Angeles Lakers. He's the Boston Celtics of the 80s. There's a reason why we all hate him, because he's good, because he's successful, and because in the NFL and in terms of quarterbacks, whether we hate him or like to admit it, he's the GOAT. He is the greatest of all time, and he will be remembered as such. And I think that my perception of him changed whenever he got out of New England, when he was on social media. You got to see his personality more. I think my perception of him changed, and I think that's true is of everybody. A lot of people that didn't like him. Randy Carricker, loves to bang on Brady, hates Tom Brady. But even he admittedly said that once, Brady became more of a public figure and more, visible on social media, and of course throwing the Lombardi Trophy after winning it, and really seeing his personality, that we just realized, hey, look, he's not as bad as it seemed like when he was playing under his under the evil empire in New
I
England.
love this. I love that he remembers this episode. Oh my God, that was great. One of my favorites. And then he sung the Music Man with him.
I ultimately believe that he'll be known for all of the positive, and you could look at his career as a whole, and yeah, there's Spygate, and yeah, there's Deflategate. Deflategate's the dumbest thing ever. I don't care about the PSI in a football as long as you're in the range, and he was. Colts brought that up because they absolutely curb stomped Indianapolis in that game. One of Andrew Luck's few postseason appearances, but it is what it is.
I look at what Jags history says. Tom's legacy is that people remember the good, the bad, and the controversy. That's absolutely right. Tom Brady, I struggle when I do these talks about who's the GOAT when it comes to different sports, because every era is different. I mean, shit, look at Bob Gibson. They literally changed rules just because he was so dominant. I think, to me, Wayne Gretzky is pretty much the greatest hockey player of all time. There's so many different arguments for who the greatest basketball player is of all time. You got your LeBron, your Jordan, your Bill Russell, Kareem. I mean, there's so many guys you could talk about. The NFL, most of the time, it comes down to the quarterbacks when you talk about who's the greatest. A lot of time, for the longest time, people said it was first they actually said Dan Marino. Then they said Joe Montana. Then it was Brett Favre, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees. I mean, but during all of that, there was one consistency, and that was Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Tom Brady played for so long. He took hits in the beginning of his career that are banned this point in his career.
Yeah.
I mean, who will never forget when Troy Vincent literally knocked his helmet off, and he somehow got right back up. Nowadays, he barely gets touched. It's probation, a $15 penalty, or 15-yard penalty, $5,000 fine, lose your kids for a month. I mean,
and a lot of those rules were because of Tom Brady. You talked about Bob Gibson and how they changed the pitching mound and everything in baseball. Tom Brady is the reason why quarterbacks are protected more now than they were back then.
I think also it goes without saying CTE is also another reason. I look at quarterbacks who have made it clear they struggle from it. But also, Tom Brady's not as mobile as a quarterback as others. And there's another one, the Tuck rule. Holy mother of mercy, the Tuck rule. The course of history changed with that one. This is the thing. What people don't understand is, and I'm going to keep that one up there for a second. Deflategate didn't change anything. The Spygate didn't affect the season. I mean, guess what? The Patriots still went undefeated and lost in the Super Bowl.
Nope, Spygate. No, remember Spygate was when Brady and the Patriots beat the Rams. All those videotapes were burned.
Happened, okay, but it started back then, but it was continued up till 2007. Look, in 2007 was when it was caught. Then players such as Marshall Faulk and Aeneas Williams and others came forward and said that they saw videotaping of their practices back in 2001 prior to that Super Bowl.
Well, all those tapes no longer exist because Roger Goodell had them promptly burned. So, and that's why a lot of Rams fans hate Tom Brady.
Right. But look at the Tuck rule and what it changed. It changed the rule on what's an incomplete pass, what's a fumble, and it's such a judgment call, it's still hard to determine. Then you got it changed the course of the Raiders and the Patriots. Patriots went on to become a dynasty. Look at what happened with the Raiders. I mean, after the 2002 season, they went on about a 13, 14-year playing like crap season streak.
You could argue that the Rams would have beaten the Raiders in the Super Bowl too.
Yeah, I mean, because I'll tell you this much. I mean, yeah, Rich Gannon was the MVP and everything of the NFL, and deservedly so. That team, you had aging guys like Rich Gannon and Jerry Rice and Tim Brown, but man, that team. The reason I think they would have won is because they also, when they traded John Gruden away, and I know we're going to get right back on track with Tom Brady, they didn't change anything in their playbook. So when John Gruden went to the Buccaneers and they made the Super Bowl, they knew exactly what was going to be called. Yep. Nevertheless, Tom Brady's career will be remembered, I agree, for the good, the bad, the ugly, the controversial. I think he will definitely go down as one of the most polarizing athletes. He's an icon of the game, though, because guess what? Anybody, I was probably watching football from beginning to now, from when I first started watching football, like weekly to now. Tom Brady's been a part of it. Yeah. And I'm going to be 28 in June. So the fact that a 23-year era is ending, I mean, it's just crazy to think about. We knew it was going to end at some point. We didn't know when. I don't think he's going to pull a Brett Favre and come back 15 times.
I don't think
Tom Brady seems more set in his ways. I also don't think he's going to steal from the poor, but that's beside the point. Tom Brady will go down as perhaps the greatest quarterback to ever play football. When I look at the top 5 greatest players in the history of the NFL, I think of Jim Brown, I think of Jerry Rice, I think of Lawrence Taylor, I think of Joe Montana, and I think of Tom Brady. You want to put an honorable mention in there for the hell of it? Otto Graham, still the highest winning percentage in the history of the league, which will probably be unsurpassed the way the league is now. So Tom Brady will always be up there. It's just a matter of, and let's not act like some of the other guys that I mentioned were clean-cut players themselves. Lawrence Taylor, dare I mention what he's listed as? Jim Brown with his domestic violence. Jerry Rice admitted to using stickum on his gloves. But no, Tom Brady's the one that's the terrible person that's going to go to hell because some footballs were deflated a little less than what they should be.
Right.
It's pick and choose. It's pick and choose. And look, I've made it clear my favorite number is 32. I wore number 32 because of Sandy Koufax and Jim Brown. All throughout high school and whenever I get a chance. But it doesn't excuse what they've done. What's been proven that they've done. So, if Tom Brady's on the Mount Rushmore of the NFL, I guess he's on the Mount Rushmore of controversy in the NFL too. But one way or another, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't, unless it's Patrick Mahomes, have fun trying to find a quarterback throw for 89,000 passing yards. You know, and oh yeah, and the you
Yeah,
know what
it
though?
was.
This is the thing, and I want to get on this for a quick second. That wasn't how it was supposed to happen. They were not supposed to snap that ball. It was made clear that the ball was not supposed to be snapped. And I think Griff Whalen was the one that was the hook snapper, the center, and he accidentally snapped it on a fake count. And so I don't know. But yes, Tom Brady retiring after 23 years in the league at the age of 45. Um, it's going to be different in the league without him. And Aaron Rodgers is celebrating by, sniffing some essence or whatever he likes messing with.
No, he's got 100 hands of his ancestors all over him. He's happy.
Oh God. So with that, folks, we're going to transition now to another piece of football that we got to get down to, and that is the NFC and AFC championship games. First, I'm just going to tell you, holy crap, the NFC championship game was a catastrophe from the start. And Barbie, thank you so much for tuning in. Does a lot of the amazing work with Interstate 70 Sports Media, all the amazing graphics that you see on our Facebook page for the Blues game days and everything, all thanks to her. So glad you're tuned in. So like I said, the NFC championship game, the Niners and Eagles. Folks, James predicted the Eagles and Bengals in the Super Bowl, and I predicted the Chiefs and the Niners. For those that don't know, we split. I got the Chiefs, he got the Eagles. Now, the Niners came in there riding with Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy, who was killing it the past couple months. An offensive juggernaut with CMC, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, a top-notch offensive line, a dangerous defense with Fred Warner and Nick Bosa. I mean, this team was legit. In come the Eagles, top seed in the league, best team in the NFL, 14-3. Jalen Hurts went 13-1 this year, or 13-1, 14-1, something of that nature. Bottom line, Jalen Hurts does not lose much. And do I dare even say they have perhaps the best rushing unit alongside probably the Cleveland Browns in the league with Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, Boston Scott, and Jalen Hurts himself. You got A.J. Brown. You got Devontae Smith. You got Dallas Goedert. And you got the top O-line in the NFL as well with Lane Johnson, Landon Dickerson, Jason Kelsey. I'm naming all these guys, and it's just amazing how star-powered this game was. And for it to end in 31-7 Eagles, it shows you the holes the Niners have when they had to rely on Brock Purdy. Because once he went down with an elbow injury, and you had to put Josh Johnson in, and first off, they didn't let him throw enough. Let's not act like Josh Johnson's never thrown a football before. He's played on a lot of teams, about 13 different teams in his career. He's been around a while, so you should have thrown the ball some more. But then they put Brock Purdy in after already being told, hey, your elbow's pretty messed up. You probably shouldn't play. You're going to be out 6 to 8 months after you have this surgery, which he's going to have. Because he tore his UCL, James.
Yep.
And it's like, why? Why put him back in there?
Because Josh Johnson got hurt. That's why Brock Purdy was back in the game. You didn't have. I mean, who are you going to have be your quarterback? Christian McCaffrey?
Why not? He's the only one that was doing anything that game.
Well, I mean,
Kyle Juszczyk, the fullback, was the emergency quarterback.
Yeah.
I get Josh Johnson went down with a concussion, but at the same time, you got to come up with something. I mean, look, it's the string. A friend of mine said it's a good problem to have when you have too many quarterbacks. Okay, that's fine. Well, when one has a broken foot, the other has a torn ACL, the other tore UCL, and the other has a concussion, you're far past pretty fucked up when it comes down to having a good problem.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they've always said if you have too many quarterbacks, you don't have one at all. But you know,
Browns
to
fan,
your
I know that.
comment, I mean, Brock Purdy could only come in and throw the ball about 4 yards. I mean, I think by the time he come back in the game, it was pretty much said and done anyway. It was decided because the Niners offense, with the exception of the CMC touchdown in the first quarter that tied it at 7, they weren't getting much going. And then after that, the floodgates opened up. And once Jalen Hurts became mobile and running the ball at will, the Niners had no answer. So, I mean, it was pretty much cut and dry, and the Eagles decided, we're just going to take care of business and go on. I mean, to the point where even Gardner Minshew took snaps in that game.
And Eddie, thank you so much for tuning in. As Eddie says, go Chiefs. Well, stay tuned, Eddie. We're about to talk about the AFC title game, but first, okay, James, there's one more thing I got to mention about that game. What in the blue hell happened at the end? Trent Williams.
Oh, the melee there.
You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, the melee. Something that's, very popular in Philadelphia is fights and melees, but
from the city that, throws snowballs at Santa Claus and AA batteries that JD drew. I can understand frustration bubbling up and bubbling over, but I mean that was pretty violent. I mean, I've not seen much. Well, no, let me take that back because, seeing the 49ers twice a year, because being a Rams fan, of course, playing in the NFC West, they've lived on the edge of choosing violence, if you will, in different times. But that little, geez, you pretty much body slam the guy, throw him down, and he and the Eagles defender get ejected there. I just think it was frustration that it finally bubbled over. I mean, we had talked earlier in that game that, it was kind of, I mentioned that it was kind of like a nuclear reactor waiting to blow up. And we hit the nuclear siren about that point, and Trent Williams just kind of lost his composure, to say the least.
I was about to say the least, he lost his composure because, the frustrations were high, but look at this.
I know.
He grabs him by the horse collar and yanks him down. Now, first off, this is a defensive back or not a defensive back, but it's a it's a defensive back going up against. It's a DB going up against a giant-ass lineman. Let's be real here. Trent Williams is no slouch.
He was like that in Washington. He was like that in Washington, though, too.
Yeah, but he's 6'5", 316 pounds, throwing down a D-back like a rag doll. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, I get it. You're losing bad. These things happen. But you can't be doing that. There's no excuse for it. And you saw earlier in the game when Greenlaw was literally going to boxing matches by punching the football. And then he was ending up punching the Eagles player. The Niners went in there and they got their butts handed to them.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it. I don't even think you expected it. I don't think you expected 31-7.
No, I didn't expect a blowout like that. The Niners kind of went into Philadelphia expecting to be the big bad Russian from Rocky IV, and instead the Niners got punched in the mouth early and often, and it ended with the Russian, not being able to stand up. So, I knew, I had a feeling that the Eagles would shut them down defensively. The offense kind of surprised me, but man, it really was a four-headed monster of just rushing touchdowns. Miles Sanders got in there twice. Boston Scott scored. Jalen Hurts got in. And then Kenneth Gainwell, well, he did just that. He gained well, in the latter half of the third and fourth quarters, and kind of just slammed the door on any comeback bid that San Francisco might have thought about having.
Yeah, it was a mess of a game. And then we come to that night. Oh, boy. Where do we begin with the Chiefs and the Bengals, James? Where do you want to begin? What aspect?
I feel terrible for Joseph Asai. That's where I'm starting at the end, because I understand that we're talking about a heat of a moment play. I also understand that Mahomes was completely out of bounds. I also understand that Mahomes was falling and actually sold that really well once Asai touched him. But I do feel bad for Asai because at that point in time, you can't touch the quarterback because he was protected by being out of bounds. It just sucks that again. Here's what I'll say, because we talked about this too, and about the NFC Championship game as well. I hate. See, how do I say this? I hate when officiating decides a game or has a play in the outcome. I really would have loved to seen the Chiefs Bengals to go to overtime just because it was a good game. But, I think what we saw is that the Cincinnati Bengals, outside of the officiating, I won't say anything else about that. Outside of that, the Cincinnati Bengals now have to understand and realize that their offensive line is a problem.
It's one of the worst in the league, and besides, you're facing. I mean, this is what I said this before the show. Joe Burrow was pressured 21 times, the same amount as Patrick Mahomes.
Do me a favor. Let's address this Jags history comment real quick, and then I'll let you go.
All right. Okay, let's see. Aside did a play like that on Mixon earlier in the game, but wasn't flat. There used to be consistency. Okay, so there was a play like that. He says on Mixon. I mean, the Cavs they're on the same team. So
I want to go back. I want to go back to the NFC Championship game. That same exact penalty was called
when on Jalen Hurts.
Yes. So there's your consistency. 2, Jags history. You should know. You're talking to an official. The first thing I'm going to say right here and now. I don't care what level it is. I don't care what sport it is. Never let a call by the official have an outcome on the game. Handle your business.
The thing of it is sometimes certain circumstances come up to where it makes that harder to do. Now, this is where I want to defend Osai for a second. First off, I want to say Joseph Osai made a boneheaded play, should have known better, and it played a very big role in costing the Bengals the game. It wasn't the only factor. Joe Burrow getting sacked 5 times. Joe Burrow
or throwing 2 interceptions.
Yeah, or, things like that. Or the defense allowing to throw for 326 yards on one leg with third-string receivers and half of Travis Kelce out there.
Or allowing...
And the Bengals losing that game.
Or allowing Mahomes to get out of the pocket and scramble on one leg anyway. He had burnt your ass all game long. How do you not have a spy on him? If you take that part out and you contain him to the pocket, that never happens.
My issue is what's going on the other side.
Or don't let Sky Moore return the damn ensuing kickoff 40 yards to the 45-yard line.
And then there was controversy on that too. But there's always going to be controversy when it doesn't go that fast.
You could call something on every play in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, this is my thing, and like I said, you look at Joseph Asai, and he was visibly crying.
Yeah, dude was upset.
The cameras continued to film him on national television, on worldwide television. If you were watching that game, you were watching Joseph Asai crying his eyes out. And there was no sympathy. He was mocked. People seem to think that it's not a manly thing to do to cry. They think that's not something that's supposed to be in our blood.
I guess I'm not a man.
Well, exactly. It's like, get the hell over it, they'll say. No, this is the thing. Real men show emotions. Joseph Asai played his heart out. And yes, like I said before, that was a terrible move on his part. Whether or not Mahomes sold it, it beats me. But what I do know is that he was more than 2 yards out of bounds, and at that point, you should know not to push anything on. This is why I have problems with helmet-to-helmet hits, obviously, or judgment calls like that, because at the speed these players are going, it's hard to just pull up.
Mm-hmm.
I think especially if you're in the big backfield, or not in the backfield, but in the secondary, and you're a corner. Now you can tell when there's a player that's intentionally going for the helmet, like Montez Burfict, which also happened, in the playoffs. It's amazing. Linebackers do not do justice well for the Bengals. Anyway, I digress. Joseph Asai, no matter what he may do the rest of his career, because he's still young, whatever happens, it's going to always be overshadowed by one play,
Unfortunately.
one move. And then the media, because they need the hits on Instagram, decide to take things out of context and post videos of teammates yelling at him, once again, in the heat of the moment, to where his teammates had to defend themselves while defending Joseph Asai.
Yeah, and the one come out. The one come out.
What is this all about?
Right, the one come out and retracted his statement too, because there was a video going around of him saying, don't touch the, what are you doing touching the effing quarterback and all this other stuff. Yeah, look, make sure your backyard is clean before you start bitching at somebody else about cleaning theirs, because I'm sure that these other players, Can we for once look? I've had it with this. I'm done. Can we for once please look or take off our Kansas City colored glasses and look at that game? So the Cincinnati mayor, he made some comments like it didn't go back and forth. It was one of the best games of the playoffs.
He ordered a paternity test so Joe Burrow could prove that he's Mahomes' daddy. That's not some statement, James. It's a paternity test ordered by the mayor.
It is a statement. It is a statement because he's not. It is a statement because he's not playing in the game.
They were up 3-0. There was a time when the Browns never lost to Joe Burrow. Did you see the mayor of Cleveland ever do that to Joe Burrow? No, they didn't. They just tried to get stuff done on the field. That's why they're 4-1 against Joe Burrow. Do
you really expect, and like Mixon saying that since he was the class of the AFC, do you really expect him to say anything else? I mean, going into this game, Mahomes was 0-3 against the Bengals. The Bengals did represent the AFC in the Super Bowl last year.
Chiefs. Stop saying it's Mahomes that's 0-3. It's the Chiefs. The Chiefs as a team were 0-3 against the Bengals.
But didn't you just
Mahomes' era?
But didn't you just say that it's when you look at players in the NFL that it's always the quarterback that it goes back to? He's the one that gets the W or the L on his record, not the team.
Every player on that team will get the W or the L.
I can't wait for the Chiefs to fall on their face, and I'm saying this seriously, because we wait till that big ass salary cap hits, where that's that $50 million a year that's hitting on that cap, and you're not going to be able to pay anybody else to play on that team.
My problem with all of this, okay, you talk about bringing up talking smack and how it's standard. I get that. Look what happened when Juju Smith-Schuster and Chase Claypool were like same old Browns. What did Cleveland do? They went to Pittsburgh and kicked their ass in the playoffs. So now we get Cincinnati, okay?
I would think next comment. I would think for somebody who's been through 2 and 14 years to be a little bit more open-minded and objective about the NFL instead of, the Chiefs' glasses on all the damn time we have these conversations.
Well, here's my thing on the whole situation. When Jeremy brought up the point that Mixon said since he was the class of the AFC, that's a comment I don't mind them saying because that is an expected comment. You have to boast yourself. But calling the stadium Burrowhead, are you kidding me? That is not a typical statement. That's the type of statement that, guess what happened the last time Trevor Lawrence talked crap about the fans at Arrowhead?
How did he talk? But how did he?
He talked about how the noise wasn't as loud as they were hyping it up to be.
So
he was talking smack too, and
the
Jaguars got booted out.
So they got their butts whipped because they lost by 7 points when everybody expected the Chiefs to beat them by at least 10. On a game where the Chiefs didn't beat the Jaguars shot themselves in the foot.
Well, first off, Chad Henne is like the GOAT of the Chiefs quarterbacks at this point, because every time Chad Henne's in a playoff game, it's all over for the other team. But no, in all seriousness, first off, Jaguars had plenty of chances and they botched it up. Chiefs had plenty of chances of their own to make it a bigger game, and they botched it up. It was not a pristine game except for one connection: Mahomes to Travis Kelce, 14 receptions. And no, and here's the thing. And okay, I'll put Jags history on there. Always said, but this is the thing. Arrowhead Stadium is the loudest stadium in the league. And you're going out there and you're like, it's literally been recorded as the loudest stadium in the league. One of, if not the loudest in the world. So that statement becomes irrelevant when he says that.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Now,
here we go. No, hang on. Dirty Jags plays nearly took. That play was not dirty. I mean, my God.
I don't think it was dirty either.
How fucking stupid do we have to be here?
I don't think it was
I mean,
dirty.
seriously? I'm serious.
Dirty. No, I get that, but this is.
Let's all put fucking skirts on and let's play football like that. Let's play Pro Bowl games every game of the year.
I mean, that's literally what the NFL is getting to at this point. I mean, Lord help me.
Dirty plays. Give me a fucking break.
But this is the thing. We're taking away the whole point of this is with the Bengals and how all week, what did they do? They talked. What happened? What did the Chiefs do? They practiced. They got ready. And okay. Like I said, to Jeremy and to Jags history, I don't think the hit was dirty on Mahomes in the Jaguars game. I think it's just one of those freak things that happen. When I look, and it says, when Jags history says Chiefs fans need to stop complaining about the Jags players' hits the first game, they were complaining about Cincinnati, I'm guessing now, or with San Francisco, now this hit. Look, this is in a fan's nature of any team. James is guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. Every fan ever is guilty of it. When they're pissed off about a call that the refs make, they're going to call some sort of bullshit about it. They're going to go off. They're going to be upset. They're going to say this team's trying to take them out and the refs are just letting them do it. They're going to say this happened. They're going to say that happened. The bottom line is the Bengals, who were talking smack, I'm sorry, I draw the line at defending a team when the mayor of the city, we're not talking about just some local team trainer. We're talking about the mayor of a city, James.
Does the mayor play the game?
No.
So what?
So why is he in this? Why is the mayor even involved in this?
The same reason.
Order a paternity test for the quarterback to say he's Mahomes' daddy. Do you not know how asinine that is? That is literally one of the stupidest things I've ever heard in my entire life.
It's stupid, and mayors have done stupid things. Just like mayors will bet. You know, the Blues and the Bruins, those two mayors bet back in the Stanley Cup Finals, just like the mayor of Kansas City and the mayor of Philadelphia will have a bet when it comes to the Super Bowl. Just because the mayor says something doesn't affect what the team does. The team doesn't say, hey, put this statement out. You know, that's not the case.
It affects what the other team, it affects the fire inside. Football is just as much, if not more, mental than it is physical. Imagine being in that.
And if you
on the news that Mahomes, there was a paternity test sent out by the mayor of Cincinnati to prove Burrow is Mahomes' daddy.
And if that mentally,
player in that locker room is going to be pissed off.
Oh, what if that mentally affects you in a negative manner? Then you're soft as hell. If that affects you,
I'm not saying it mentally affects you to where you're crying in your sleep, but I'm saying it helps light a fire under your ass to prove them wrong.
Okay.
What do you want them to do? How do you want them to go out there? Yay, they're the Bengals. Let's just beat them. For freaking 20 years, they were the mediocrity of the AFC.
Or not say anything at all and just go handle your business.
Which is what the Chiefs did.
Okay.
What they did.
My problem isn't with them winning the game. It's the fact that Chiefs fans think that, Patrick Mahomes can now walk on water. I mean, and my problem is the fact that you're not looking at.
Fans thought that Tom Brady could do. So.
He won 7 Super Bowl rings. Talk to me when Mahomes does that.
I'm going to tell you something right now. He loses at least 2 of them without Adam Vinatieri.
Fine, but he's also been to 10 Super Bowls. Those are all big things. Don't act like Mahomes is the best of all time when he's not to that point.
Mahomes is the best of all
I'm
time.
not saying that to you.
I'm going to tell you this: if Mahomes keeps at all the statistical paces he's at, excluding playoffs and Super Bowls, statistically he will be the greatest quarterback of all time.
The problem is who are you going. The problem is who are you going to put around him, because you're not going to be able to afford other players. Remember, Tom Brady did take a pay cut so they could put weapons around him in New England.
And I respect that. I always respected the fact he would take a pay cut. You got guys sitting out. You got guys like Kyler Murray worried about Call of Duty while they give him a $200+ million contract just so he can play ass and then get hurt. Meanwhile,
and it got everybody. And it got everybody in that organization fired.
They either got him fired or retired. Meanwhile, you take a look at the Patriots and now Buccaneers situation where Tom Brady would take pay cuts so other key players would stay around him. You know. The Patriots teams of the 2000s were always all around the best because of how they were structured. They had the top coach, they had the top quarterback, they had a very strong defense, they had good playmakers. Like I always look at those Colt matchups between Peyton Manning and Tom Brady were always one of my favorite matchups. But I knew the Patriots would win most of the time because the defense was always better on New England.
Question.
And that's so okay, hang on. So did Patrick Mahomes take? He
didn't take a pay cut.
No, he didn't. No, he did not take a pay cut. But at the same time, there was a lot. People don't realize how incentive based his contract is. It wasn't just like here's $500 million, go crazy, throw touchdowns to MVS and Sky Moore and whatever's left of Travis Kelce out there. That's not how this went. This simply, look, they told him he can't do certain things outside of football that could injure him.
I'm curious.
And then, okay, what?
Because I'm looking at Patrick Mahomes' contract right now. Okay? And there is nothing incentive-based here. His guaranteed salary next year is $40.45 million. After that is $30.9 million. This is all guaranteed. His guaranteed money is 141 or $161 million. There's nothing incentive based here. Oh, I'm sorry. He had a $10 million signing bonus. No. Listen, I'm reading this off of Over the Cap right now. Okay, we're talking 10 years, $450 million. His fully guaranteed money is $63.08 million. The cash payout is 14.26% of the Chiefs' spending, and the cash to cap ratio is 0.82. It's one of the highest in the NFL.
No, so Mahomes, this is what it is. Each year starting in 2022, which was last year, he can earn $1.25 million if the Chiefs make the Super Bowl, and an additional $1.25 if the Chiefs actually win it. So for Mahomes to get that entire
$2.5 million. $2.5 million.
Okay. But this is the thing. Everybody talks about how his full contract is $502.631 million over 10 years. He has to lead the Chiefs to the Super Bowl as the league MVP.
So his cap.
I'm sorry. No. Hang on. I made a mistake. 1.25 if he reaches the Super Bowl. An additional 1.25 if he's named MVP. So yes, he has to be MVP, and they have to reach the Super Bowl every year for this entire contract if he wants the full amount of the money.
So $2.5 million a year. Mm-hmm.
But over 10 years. But you're saying that there is nothing incentive-based in here. Yes, the cap hit will go up every year. That's how all cap hits work. That's the point of it. I mean, for the most part,
you're talking about $2.5 million is incentive based. Okay, out of how much this contract actually pays out each year in guaranteed salary, that is a drop in the bucket. Next year, his guaranteed salary is $40.45 million. It is a 46.79 cap hit, and it's 21% of the team's cap next year. How the hell are you going to keep players around?
Okay, I want to look at what Jeremy put here, because this is another point I want to bring up that ties into all this. Wait till Joe Burrow signs. Wait till Lamar Jackson finally gets the deal he likes. But no, this is the problem. And then, you know what? This is the thing. You're talking about Pat Mahomes' contract and how it puts the Chiefs possibly in cap hell. Every quarterback from this point on, look at Wilson, look at Watson, look at what's Burrow going to want. Look at what Justin Herbert's going to want. Look at what all these look at Jalen Hurts, for crying out loud.
Those aren't quarterbacks.
Tom Brady pay cuts to stay with the team.
But those aren't quarterbacks that are so-called the top at the league. So how are the Chiefs going to stay at the top of the league with all these players?
First off, they're already considering Joe Burrow at the top of the league, which, I mean, I'm like, I don't know about all
I'm not talking about individual players. I'm not talking about individual players. I'm talking about a team and the team cap. So if I've got one player that is 21% of the cap, that leaves you 79% of the cap for 52 other rostered players.
Well, first off, Travis Kelce is about 33 years old. So that first question brings up, I mean, what are you going to do as far as, yeah, he's 33 years old. He'll be 34 in October. And it brings up the question, what are you going to do with Travis Kelce in his contract? Yeah, and see, that's what I'm saying. QBs are going to have contracts like that now. This is not a Chiefs problem. This is an NFL problem because every team is going to act like this.
But we're talking about Patrick Mahomes. We're talking about.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying we're talking about the Chiefs being at the top of the league. You can't stay up there with constant. Look, my favorite team is in cap hell. I understand how this happens all too well. The Rams are going to have to start selling players off because they can't afford them all. Right. And you could have the best offense in the world and then have me out there playing defensive back. That shit ain't going to work.
I mean, that's basically what the Rams did from having the Rams last year to the Rams this year.
Well, that and injuries killed everything. But the problem is because you paid all these guys high money that when somebody did get hurt, you had no money for depth.
Right. But the thing of it is the Chiefs also draft well. I do like the Chiefs have had some really good drafts lately, especially defensively. Something that what has been the biggest issue the Chiefs have had over the past 5 years? Defense.
Their defense.
They have really started. Yeah, the defense has been the big weak link. It was like the 2000 Rams. Best offense in the league, but perhaps one of the worst, if not the worst, defense in league history.
Mm-hmm.
Allowed over 450 points. No team has scored over 500 and allowed more than 450 than the Rams in 2000. But they invested the next year in good draft after good draft. It helped. Now, team cap is going up, and Travis Kelce has 2 years left likely. Jones is definitely going to get a different deal. We'll see about what happens with Frank Clark. The offensive line, they're going to invest heavily in because, like I said, you need a strong offensive lineman in a passing league. First off, I will say Clyde Edwards-Helaire is gone. There ain't no way when it's time to re-sign him or anything, he's sticking around. He is gone as can be. There is no freaking way. If Jerick McKinnon and Isaiah Pacheco keep playing the way they are, it's done. It's a done deal. And this is another reason they couldn't afford Tyreek because Tyreek wanted big-time money, but it was saved over for Patrick Mahomes. And so I'm looking at the situation the Chiefs have. Yes, I agree that a lot was invested into one player. I never feel that one player should be worth $500 million. That's just me. That's maybe just my old school style when it comes to really balancing it out when it comes to economics. But when it comes down to it, the Chiefs are in a good position for now. Look at the Rams last year. They did not invest everything in these players from last year so they could win 3 Super Bowls over 3 years. They did it so they could win 1 Super Bowl now and just hope to God they do something the next year. It's like the Cubs did in 2016. They sold the farm, they built the team, they got 1 World Series, and they haven't done jack shit since. That is how teams operate now. They want to get that title out of the way. Meanwhile, the Chiefs are going to their 3rd Super Bowl in 4 years. I mean, I don't know. Jeremy thinks that Frank Clark is gone, but we'll see how that goes. They have a 2 to 3 year window. Look, they're going to want to get they're still the favorites in the AFC because nobody has truly dethroned them. And you talk about for a team that considers themselves to be the best team in the AFC, what are people doing with the Bengals? The team that beat them and made it to the Super Bowl last year. I'm telling you right now, Kansas City has a lot they're going to have to figure out. But until then, they're in the Super Bowl because they're the better team over the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm not saying that because of one bull penalty that a player committed. I'm not saying that because Joe Burrow just had a rough game. I'm not saying it because the offensive line was atrocious because they had backups in. At the end of the day, look where we're at. The Chiefs are in the big game, and the Bengals are watching on the same chairs and couches we're going to be sitting on.
I'm just going to keep my comments to myself.
I don't mind. Why?
No, I just, it is what it is. I've got a problem with everybody being on Patrick Mahomes is nuts. That's all.
I understand that because I have a lot of friends that feel the same way. I have a lot of friends
I feel like a lot of the time because we're Interstate 70 media that God forbid us say anything negative towards the Chiefs. Well, if you want that, find somebody else because that ain't going to happen here. I can look at sports objectively and break it all down. And that's not directed at you, Jeremy, at all.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I do kind of okay, I do agree to an extent, but I know James's objectiveness. I do know James long enough to know how he objectively looks at things. But there is a lot of folks out there who do have what's called greatness hate. LeBron is the perfect example. LeBron James, one of the greatest, if not the greatest. People hate him, though, because he's so damn good. It's not because he's a bad person, because he's one of the most charitable freaking people in the world.
I think a lot of my problem is, too, is like it's kind of like, so living in Kentucky, I can't stand University of Kentucky basketball. It's not because of the team, it's because of the fans. A lot of that is my experience with Chiefs fans, and that's what it comes down to. But a lot of it has to do with the fact that they can't look objectively.
And Jags history. Mahomes isn't a crybaby like LeBron or like Josh Allen. Every time something doesn't go Josh Allen's way, he files a petition to get a rule changed in the NFL.
God forbid he couldn't handle Scott Norwood being his kicker.
Exactly. Oh my God. I think he'd retire right then and there if Scott Norwood was Josh Allen's kicker. So, with all that, we're going to regroup here, folks, as we pass the hour mark on Roundabout Sports. I'm the Maestro Jeremy Carp with what little voice I have left, and he's Hollywood James Knox. We're just talking about the AFC Championship game, Patrick Mahomes, everything Kansas City Chiefs basically, and what they're going at. And now we're gonna save the Eagles Chiefs Super Bowl talk for next week. We're gonna hold off on that till next week because we want to really get more time dedicated to it. Because right now we're actually going to shift gears and tune into the Royal Rumble match. Well, the entire Royal Rumble pay-per-view that took place this past Saturday. And James, what were your overall thoughts?
I liked it. I'm sorry, I was reading a story that said Tom Brady will not be involved in any of the Fox coverage on the Super Bowl, despite his contract with them.
I mean, aw.
I would have liked to. I would have loved to seen him and Gronk get together on that Fox set. That might have been good comedy gold.
Save it next season.
I enjoyed the Royal Rumble. I think it was predictable, but I think predictable is what was needed. Obviously Cody winning the Royal Rumble match. I'm happy and it was predictable, but there was a star that shone really brightly in that match despite not winning, and that was Gunther. The fact that
MVP of that match.
Yes, the fact that he went in at number 1, the leader of Imperium went all the way to the end, and I love, man, some of the storylines for his character that could come out of that. I mean, obviously the matchup with Braun Strowman, the matchup with Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre, and just, on and on. And there weren't, unless you want to count Edge as being a surprise, being in that, but I kind of mentioned it earlier in the day that I thought maybe he would return. Jack's history, the ending, he and I actually watched it together. It was just that pay-per-view as a whole was really good. And yes, the ending, seeing Sami Zayn turn on Roman Reigns and then seeing Jey Uso walk out, more slow burn to a storyline that has already been fire.
I like the Royal Rumble pay-per-view.
And Jack's history, just to note who the best uncle in the world is, 23 days until we get to go to SmackDown, brother.
No, I'm serious. No, no.
Hey, man.
I know that's awesome. Uncle James coming through clutch
Always.
for Jack's history.
Always.
Now then, I enjoyed the Royal Rumble. I will admit, I was a little disappointed in the men's Rumble match. No real surprises. I liked Cody winning. I felt that was the way it was going to be. Gunther was phenomenal. Outstanding performance. I just feel like there was just a lot of times in the match where nothing really seemed to click. I do love the spot with Logan Paul, although I will say there's no way he tore his ACL. That was in November. It's January, and he's already doing jumps off the top rope and everything. I'm telling you right now, unless you got some magic juice in you or something from Aaron Rodgers or John Cena, there ain't no way you recovered from a torn ACL in 2 months. I will not buy that. Women's match, the Rumble match, loved it. Thought it was great. Really showcased a lot of NXT superstars. I think that's what you needed to do.
Right.
Rhea Ripley winning, great choice. Have her come out of number 1, last the longest. I thought the final battles in the Rumble between the men and the women, so Cody versus Gunther and then Rhea versus Liv Morgan and Asuka, those were great. Those were singles match, or I guess matches in and of themselves.
And getting to see the evil side of Asuka was kind of cool.
So I enjoyed that. The rest of the show, first off, Hardy, terrible performance.
Oh my God.
The musician Hardy, it was just terrible. WWE wasn't happy with it, and who can blame them? I know I sure as hell wasn't happy with it, but that was just because it was taking up time. The Pitch Black match, or the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match, I was entertained. Bray Wyatt versus LA Knight, I was entertained by it.
And then Uncle Howdy with the jump of faith.
Yes, Uncle Howdy with the jump of faith at the end of the day. And then the final match, the WWE title match versus Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens. I thought it was just going to be a very quick one. Turned out to be an extended match, which a lot of great spots. Really enjoyable. And, of course, the ending with Sami Zayn turning on Roman Reigns and the Bloodline and Jey Uso walking out. Just all that was spectacular. The crowd was into that whole ending. We're on the road to WrestleMania, and we're going to be keeping tabs both on – we definitely recommend tuning into the Issues with Wrestling with Christopher Miles every Sunday night at 6 p.m. And you'll definitely get a kick. You'll enjoy what he has to offer when it comes to professional wrestling talk. As far as Rumble, I got nothing else to say. I'm just excited for where the road to WrestleMania leads us. So with that, we got one more topic, folks, before we head to Knox's Corner this evening. And this one I wanted to bring up. So, James, how do you usually watch MLB games and or MLB Network at home?
Actually, we have cable. Yeah, well, we have cable, so I'm actually lucky enough to get Valley Sports Indiana / Midwest and the MLB Network. But when I'm on the road, I mean, everything is app based. I stream everything. So, I actually take a Roku on the road with me. So if the Cardinals are playing or if I want to, tune into, a Major League Baseball game, I have that at my fingertips.
We have cable at home. So we can get the Cardinals games. I personally cannot with my YouTube TV. I can get MLB Network until now or soon when they take it off. In the Valley Sports app is probably one of the worst apps ever. I've never downloaded it, but I've seen enough of it to know why. It's one of the worst apps ever. I bring this up because MLB is finding a way to consistently make it harder for people to tune in. And it doesn't help that Sinclair Broadcasting
Ugh.
Group's division, Diamond, which controls the Bally Sports networks, all the RSNs, are going bankrupt. So, yeah, James, you being the baseball guy,
Mm-hmm.
um, let me just ask you this.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to be as polite and kind as I possibly
Ah,
can.
you'd be better than that.
What in the mother of hell are the dumbasses at Sinclair, at MLB, and anybody else involved in putting on MLB games thinking?
Oh boy, that's $64,000 question. So in terms of in terms of like Bally Sports and Diamond Sports Group, that division of Sinclair Broadcasting and the MLB. So let's reverse a little bit. Back late last year, Bally Sports Plus was launched, which was the streaming app for Bally Sports and your RSN over a streaming platform. Only the NHL and the NBA had agreed to have their product aired over that application. Major League Baseball playing hardball. Now we're not going to pay it. We don't, we haven't come to that decision yet. So put that on the back burner, but keep that in the back of your mind. So in terms of,
Okay.
we're going to a world where everybody or most of everybody are cord cutters. And I myself consume a lot of television over streaming apps, whether it's Peacock, over it's Netflix, Hulu, even on-demand stuff over a streaming device. Major League Baseball has made their product for the last year and a half, because remember, we had the YouTube TV or the YouTube games, which sucked. We had Apple Plus TV or Apple TV Plus games, which sucked, because how many people missed Albert hitting .699 and 700 last year because it was on Apple Plus television. So
Biggest load of crap.
Major League Baseball has made it hard, constantly hard for viewership and for those who are baseball fans to consume their product. Also, even if you have MLB.TV, blackouts, you've got people. Okay, now I'm going to use people who live in Las Vegas as an example here. They are blacked out for the Dodgers, the Angels, the Padres. Okay, that's just those. They're also blacked out to the Giants, the Diamondbacks, and the Seattle Mariners. They are blocked out to 6 different teams if they live in Las Vegas. They don't have a Major League, well, they will soon have a Major League Baseball team, but they don't at the current moment. And they're blacked out to the Oakland Athletics. So if you're within a 3-hour, because I know from example and from track record here that I'm blocked out on MLB.TV games. I am blacked out to Cardinal games and Reds games because of where I live. 3 hours east of St. Louis, 4.5, roughly 5 hours southwest of that trash hole, Cincinnati. So anyway, that's where. So you're looking at that kind of a distance. Now, back to Bally Sports and their app. If I sign in to my Bally Sports app here, the Blues are blacked out, but I get the Predators. Who in the hell wants to watch the Predators? But the point being is it's all territorial restrictions. We've heard that. I've heard that since I was a little kid. Territorial restrictions apply. And for a long time, the NFL was blacked out in certain markets. We remember that. The NFL got smart. They lifted them. MLB, they are the one sport that still has blackouts left. That in the NHL with certain markets. So Major League Baseball has already not only moved certain games, certain big high-profile games to a streaming platform where not everybody knows how to find them. And now you've got Sinclair Broadcasting. Folks, if you live in St. Louis, you know how bad Sinclair Broadcasting is. They have had their hands in Fox 2. They had their hands in the bucket with KPLR at one point. ABC 30 is another one. And now, when it was all said and done and ESPN was ready to put these RSNs up for sale after purchasing them from Fox, Sinclair swoops in, buys them, and renames them. Now, I learned in my broadcast journalism classes a very long time ago that what Bally Sports and what Sinclair tried to do here was create an RSN monopoly. Well, they did a pretty good job of it. Antitrust laws they were able to circle around because some teams have their own networks and blah, blah, blah. There were certain platforms you could watch it on. Well, here's the thing. MLB wants to take all of it away. They're done with YouTube TV, hence you'll lose MLB Network. You were never able to get an RSN on YouTube TV anyway. DirecTV had RSNs. They're done with the MLB. And DirecTV may be a thing of the past once the Sunday Ticket goes and signs wherever they're going to sign. It looks like it'll be on YouTube TV. So they'll recoup some money. But what's going on in this MLB platform carousel is we're going to make our money. We make about $10 billion a year. That does not include profit sharing. So what we're going to do is we're going to take away the product from the people who actually help us make money, and screw you, you're going to have to find it somewhere else, if not at all.
Pretty much. I mean, I don't know which more I don't know which more I can add to it, except for the fact that it amazed me because I remember when a lot of St. Louis Rams games were blacked out.
Oh, God, yeah.
During the time period that the NFL still did. I mean, you know what was this is one of the craziest things to imagine. Can you imagine a Super Bowl being blacked out?
Oh, my God.
Like, I mean, really think about that, because back in the 70s, that was the case. Certain market, like when the Dolphins in one of their Super Bowls, the market was blacked out. And some people jokingly said because Washington was Nixon's favorite team, he wouldn't let Miami fans watch it. But no, it's unbelievable that there can't be a straightforward, hey, we'll take care of these games, and at the end of the day, everybody can watch games of their teams in their local market. But unfortunately, they can't do that because it's all about greed. It all comes down to greed and wanting to be the best, the most dominant. So, yeah, pretty much. And folks, with that, it is time here on Roundabout Sports for a lovely segment we like to call Knox's Corner. And James has told me he has something special prepared, as he always does. And I will take a step back and listen and enjoy James's work. So, James, the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Well, today we're going to be celebratory. Today, if you don't know, is National Girls and Women in Sports Day. And believe it or not, obviously being an official, and whether it's a colleague, a player, a coach, first and foremost, if they are in your life, thank them. I certainly do so because without them, part of my officiating career does not exist. So what we're going to do is, first of all, you've got Autumn Lockwood, who is the first female to actually coach in the Super Bowl. She's also African American, so she is doing wonderful things with her career. She will coach in the Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles. Kaylin Buskey is with the Baltimore Ravens. Jennifer King with the Washington Commanders. Joan Cantonese with the Atlanta Falcons. Callie Brownson with the Browns. Ashley Cornwell with Tennessee. Moral Jandafar is with the Buccaneers. Isabel Diaz with the Commanders as well. And then you've got three officials that are female that are in the NFL. Robin DeLorenzo, Maya Chaka, and Sarah Thomas. And Sarah was actually the first one. She made history there as well. But in my career, I have come across a lot of young ladies that have made a huge impact in the world of softball. I always make the joke that I've sent more female softball athletes to college than financial aid. Obviously, there are some that are still coming up through the ranks that have made a huge impression. Whether it, you can look at different schools in the region, whatnot. Girls like Webster County and Alyssa, and then you've got girls here where I live here in Henderson that have been not only made a huge impact on my life as an official, but also as friends, you certainly try to keep up with them as they continue on in their softball career. But also colleagues. One of my female colleagues that I umpire high school softball with now actually helped train me and get me better as I took a big step into the college realm. So, with it being National Girls and Women in Sports Day, I just figured that is the best way that we honor these young ladies and these females that continue to do great things. There are a lot of times where when it comes to officiating that I'd rather do girls games than guys games because I think that the athletes at sometimes, believe it or not, are superb and they are the superior ones here. And I just don't think that they get enough recognition. It shouldn't be just one day a year. It should be all year long. And I think that those that play sports, and we always talk about whether they're athletes or educationally getting into the STEM, the science, the technology, all of that, pushing females to the forefront. A couple weeks ago, we had Taylor Michelle Coleman on the show, and you look at a young African American woman that dealt with a lot of adversity as a child and has become a successful published author. And, we have to give and do a better job of pushing females to the top of the pedestal and putting them on that platform to make sure they succeed just as well as we do. A lot of times, depending on the profession, you hear, well, it's a man's world. It's a people's world, and it should be that way, not just, one day of the year. Whether they're teachers, whether they're officials, whether they are police officers, whether they are professors, whether they're the head of a multi a Fortune 500 company. We have to continue to kind of hold them in a prestigious way. It shouldn't be about whether you're a man or a woman, just how good you are at the job. And there are a lot of times where I've seen a female a lot better than a man at the job, and we have to remember that they deserve the same as us guys do. We put sports and stuff on social media, and there are a lot of guys that will go in and comment and say, oh, yeah, I'll remember to watch that WNBA game or this women's soccer game. But hey, look, without them, sports die. And then it could be an opportunity for a young lady to get out of poverty or an abusive situation and really excel. So on today, obviously, it's also the first day of Black History Month as well. And, so much of that goes overlooked. And I think that as this society continues to evolve, and I think we see that there's not much room for sympathy or even just being, empathetic in society, that a lot of times we overlook stuff like that. And it shouldn't be the case. That I know that not everybody is created equal. I'm not completely naive. But that doesn't mean that people shouldn't be celebrated and treated as such. Thanks for entering Knox's Corner. Now that I have calmed down a little bit, we'll bring Jeremy back in here and we'll wrap things up tonight. Oh, where is Jeremy? I cannot hear you. Unmute your mic.
Okay. You know why I muted it? So I can really listen to what you're saying.
You're a liar.
Hey, Knox's Corner is one of the few times I actually care about what you say.
Oh, goodness.
Folks, it has been another lovely episode of Roundabout Sports. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And as we wrap things up here, I always just want to put up the National Alliance of Mental Illness hotline or helpline at 1-800-950-NAMI. That is 1-800-950-NAMI. It's the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated to building better lives for those that struggle with mental illness. And of course, as always, we put up at the end of the show the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. And for that, you just dial 988. And it's a line that's open 24/7, 365, 366 on leap years. Understand that you are never alone in this world. There's always someone out there who is willing to listen to you, who cares about you, who loves you. And on top of that, you can be that person for someone else. So if someone reaches out to you, never be afraid to listen, help point them in the right direction to a better resource. Because, James said it perfectly on Knox's Corner. This is a people world. And we all got to look out for each other. So thank you so much for tuning in. As always, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter at Interstate 70 Sports Media. You can also find James and myself on Facebook and Twitter, and you can find Roundabout Sports on Twitter, or I'm sorry, on Facebook as well. And James, you say you are airing a new episode of The Strike Zone tomorrow night. Is that correct?
Yeah, I will have Jags History is going to join me. Josh is going to join me, and then Jordan Winders, who I had on the show, actually on the season premiere of The Strike Zone, he'll be joining me as well. He might be the biggest Tom Brady apologist that I've ever met. So we'll talk a little bit about Tom Brady. We'll do a post mortem on some of the teams from the NFL, and then of course. Once we wrap all of that up with them, I will do a post mortem on the first half of the St. Louis Blues season.
At least the Cardinals are coming up. So
yeah,
and the
yeah, no doubt. Yeah, there you go.
The Battlehawks, and yes, tune in next week on Roundabout Sports. And for that, folks, he's Hollywood James Knox. I'm the Maestro Jeremy Carp, and always remember, life is a book full of empty pages just waiting to be written in.